This is Let's Talk Best Intentions, all things wealthy, healthy, happy.
Oh, do you think that's a bit cheesy?
Yeah, but I quite like it. Hi everyone, welcome to Let's Talk Best Intentions. And this week, Mel and I are still in separate locations, as you can see.
Are. One day you'll see us on a screen next to each other and it'll feel really weird. So.
Maybe, or yeah, I don't know. Maybe we just do it like this. Yeah, it's strange, isn't it? Because a lot of people have been talking about how the work world will change now. We've all got so used to being remote. I kind of hope that people go back to wanting to see each other face to face. I certainly would quite like to see you face to face, but
I know that'd be lovely. I had a very weird moment the other day. I was in the shop. I was trying to get wrapping paper and I couldn't see it in the shop. So I spoke to the store person. I was like, "Oh, hi, do you have any wrapping paper?" And they're like, "Yeah, we do. It's just over there." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is one of the only conversations I've had with somebody outside of my boyfriend for months." And my brain was like, "Ooh, social contact."
I know. I look forward to. I've got a weekly. I do takeaway from a restaurant that's just down the road that's run by a friend of mine, and yeah, weekly interaction with him face to face feels like such a treat. So is the food as well. Actually, the food is an absolute treat. Last night we had these burgers with chili and cheese and curly fries, and it's amazing.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
We were spoiled actually, because it's just been Max's birthday, and his family bought him a patty and bun kit. I don't know if you've heard of these.
No.
So obviously the restaurant's not open, but it's an amazing burger restaurant in London, and they give you all of the ingredients that you would get in the restaurant in this little pack, so you can build your own like perfect like restaurant burger, and it was amazing. It was so good.
Do you think that more people will cook at home now that we've been sort of forced to, or do you reckon everyone's just desperate to go and eat out and not cook at home again?
I don't know, because I found it like, usually when you've been at work all day and you come home and you're knackered and you don't want to cook, like that doesn't seem to happen now because it's just there and you've got the time and you don't have the commuting time. So I don't really know, like psychologically, how it's going to be when we're back to work and then you're knackered and you're coming home, and then does it all kind of disappear, or are there any long-lasting changes? I've got no idea.
Well, I don't think everyone's going to be making sourdough.
I still haven't.
I haven't either. Banana bread, though, I have to admit.
Oh yeah,
hold my hands up to bread. But yeah, what else have you been hearing? What's been going on this week?
What have I been hearing? Lots of chat, lots of people trying to figure out when the lockdown is going to end and what things mean and how it's going to impact. And I think it's human nature to do that, but it's tiring, having the same conversation with so many different people. And I've kind of got to that point where I'm like, I don't know. I've got no idea what's going to happen. It's, it's completely out of our control. So psychologically, I don't know what you think about dealing with that feeling of.
Well, I listened to, I can't remember, this really interesting perspective on it, which is that we all have our own behavioural biases, and particularly when we're isolated with, in many cases, no one but ourselves, or in my case, my parents, in your case, your Matt's, your behavioural biases and their behavioural biases can just compound massively. And what we'll end up doing is absorbing information that probably confirms the bias that we already have, and almost ignoring the ones that don't. And no information that we're getting at all is balanced. So we've not got any information providers that are giving us a balanced view that it's either the world's going to end and we're never going to be the same again and it's all going to be terrible and most of us will die, or this is totally fine, complete overreaction, we'll be back to normal before you know it. And then we're just taking some sort of average or balancing those bits of information and coming up with a conclusion that is absolutely not right. All that what's going on in our heads,
based on nothing scientific, just our own brains going, oh, that piece of information makes sense, I'll go with that one.
So I've promised myself, I think I made this promise to myself about halfway through this week, I'm not going to debate it anymore. I'm not going to engage in these what if, how about this type conversations. And a lot of people have been saying it from a money perspective. Okay, so they've increased the furlough, government furlough pay to the end of June. What happens then? What happens here? I just don't know But if you're worried, then focus on the things that you can control that affect your financial situation, because you're not going to be able to affect whether or not the company that you've been furloughed by will be a going concern after all of this. You're not going to be able to control what the government does in response to that, but there are quite a few things that you can control.
Yes, and that's, you know, that's a lovely thing to kind of focus on. And, you know, I've read a lot recently about people, you know, finally having the time to figure out their finances. Like, we've certainly had that a lot from the community, where, you know, there was an engagement before this happened, and now it's like, okay, now I really can take stock. And just, you know, on the side of being able to control it, it can be quite satisfying to have that moment where you kind of sit down, figure out where you're at, figure out what you can do, and that's actually a really lovely bit of positivity to have when it kind of feels like the world is a very kind of scary and uncertain place.
Yeah, someone said to me this week, was I able to send them a financial plan sort of budget spreadsheet thing, because they felt like, given they're not spending as much anymore, finally okay to delve deep into their bank account to try and understand what it is that's going on and how they can set some financial goals, because in other periods it's just been a bit intimidating to have to open your eyes to exactly what you are spending, and maybe the lack of savings. So it's definitely a good time to be thinking
take your head out of the sand and have a look at your finances.
Well, as you know, I did it. I had a admin day reluctantly a couple of days ago. It is long, it really is, but it's worth doing, and now I feel like I'm in a far better place for it. I had 8 different bank accounts or savings accounts in different places, and I've consolidated that right down, and opened a high interest savings account, moved all of my savings out of my current account, which had sort of built up there for a while. All good stuff to get done, and now I feel a bit more like zen about the whole thing.
And taller.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's amazing what it can do. Maybe you should do a bit more banking related admin, and you might grow a little bit.
Yeah, I know. I'd love that. That'd be great. I wouldn't have to wear heels.
I know. I regretted wearing heels with you. There's a great photo of me and Mel delivering a best intentions seminar at a company a few months ago before lockdown, and I looked like a giant.
Yeah, it turned up in my trainers, and Tara's there in her heels, and it didn't make me look my tallest.
Anyway, but talking about the controllable,
yes,
I think it's probably worth spending a little bit of time talking through things that people can control, because it's easy for us to say, well, you can take control, but actually it's probably a bit intimidating, and even to make the step of asking for a budgeting spreadsheet means that people are just looking at their bank accounts going, don't know, now what? So what would you say people wanted to take control, where they should start?
Yeah, I mean, I think take a look at your outgoings. I mean, this is something that we say regularly, is just be consciously aware of what's going on with your money. And I think we've got another template actually that kind of asks the right questions for you to be able to figure that out. So just let us know if you want to get hold of that. And especially right now, if you've got an idea of where that money's going and who it's going to, there's a really good opportunity, as we mentioned before, to renegotiate and figure out what you can cut, what you can keep. A lot of the stuff that we talk about when it comes to finances is being conscious of what things are happening. And that's the really big step from, I don't really know what I'm doing, I'm going to step away from this, I'm not going to engage, to, okay, I'm going to sit down, I can see what I'm spending, I can see what I'm happy about spending and what I'm not happy about spending, and then I can make conscious decisions to go, okay, that is what I don't need in my life anymore, and that's something that I can then save towards my future. So it's really about that conscious approach to looking at your outgoings.
Yeah. And making a bit of a judgment call of, shopping, not doing this online shopping might make me feel better right now, but would I value having that extra money in my account in 2 months' time if I don't really know what could be happening? And being quite ruthless about that, I think, at the moment. If you are in a difficult situation, or you are stressed or worried about the potential future financial position that you're in, just be honest about those value judgments. But as you say, Mel, there's also a lot of things that are available to people right now, and we all know about things like mortgage holidays and credit card repayment holidays that banks are offering. But you can go beyond that, and actually, the way I see it, if you don't ask, you don't get. And landlords are being quite flexible about rental holidays or rent reductions over this period. You'd also, anything that you've got a regular subscription to, a regular membership with, you might be able to get a reduction in the amount that you're paying there, or cancel it, or put it on hold, or anything. But if you don't A, start with understanding your own situation, and B, being honest with yourself about it, then you can't have those conversations, and you might as well just ask. The worst that can happen is they say no, and then you have to go back to what else you can do yourself.
Yeah, and I think that, you know, that links really nicely back to what we were saying at the beginning, which is those are things that you can control, and there is an opportunity for you to be able to have a positive impact on things that are going out that perhaps it might feel like you can't. Yeah, as Tara says, just ask.
And absolutely do not turn to credit and debt. Building up, it can feel so easy, and particularly if you think, oh, it's just for a month, or it's just to tide me over, that can spiral out of control. And I did a little bit of Googling about this, and I worked out that there's some payday lenders or credit cards that if you borrow £100 and don't pay it back for 6 months, that £100 could turn into £200, and you've just doubled your problem. So you're already in a difficult position. You turned to creditors, and you've just doubled the issue there and then. And so anything that you can do that stops you from going to payday lenders or building up credit card debt or unarranged overdrafts, you absolutely should do. I can't stress that enough.
And particularly now, because we don't know when this is going to end. You know, we both said we're not getting involved in figuring out when and how and what, but, you know, we don't know. So you've kind of got to prepare for this being the norm, at least for a while. And the best that you can do is really take control of your finances to know what you can and can't spend, and do your best to stay away from that bad debt.
I don't know, did you know this? I when I was doing a bit of reading around it, the mortgage holidays and credit card holidays, they seem like banks are, you know, being really kind and generous, but actually you are still, you're not getting out of having to pay that back, and you are still accruing interest over that period. So actually you're giving yourself a bigger problem in future, which, look, don't get me wrong, if you need to do those things, that's what they've been set up for, and it does give you added flexibility, but it is not a free lunch.
Yeah.
And so I think making sure that you're doing those with your eyes open, and because you really need to, is an important realization, rather than just going, oh, I can take a mortgage holiday, yay.
Yeah, and I think that's the same with renegotiating on lots of these things, even the smaller elements as well when it comes to subscriptions and memberships. Just make sure that you're going in with eyes wide open to know, you know, is it a proper free break? Does it extend the contract? Have I got interest being paid on this? All of those things, definitely worth asking those questions as well.
But what if we had a bit of a more positive spin on this, and, you know, we want everyone to be focusing on their money, and I really want people to be, and I want myself to be as well, taking really good, paying good attention to what I'm spending and what my financial position is as we go through this. But with uncertainty comes actually opportunity as well, and in this time. And I've had a few friends of mine saying that they're doing things like learning new skills, or taking this time that they've got potentially through being furloughed, or just through being at home and not commuting to work and that sort of thing, to start new little startups, side hustles, businesses that they had in the back of their mind. One of my friends, a fantastic drawer, and she always talked about wanting to make invitations and cards and sort of event cards with the drawing design that she's got. It's very distinctive pattern that she draws. I'll show you all the time. And she's set up a website. She's done a whole bunch of drawings, and that's fantastic. Another friend is learning website design, because no matter what happens in this period, you've got companies that are increasingly going to be online and needing to expand their online presence. So if you can do whatever you were doing before and fix their website for them, amazing. So there are opportunities there for you to capitalize on.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I've really been enjoying some of the extra time that I've had left. Got back. I have started on a design course, actually, just to make sure that we make Best Intentions look as good as we possibly can. And that's been really fun. Yeah, no, I haven't told you about it yet. But that's been really great, and it's a little kind of, you know, hour activity that I can do that kind of switches my brain off from everything else. Yeah, I quite enjoyed learning something new as well. And then I've got loads of friends who've started doing stuff. I've got one who set up a food blog, which is great. Another girl who's she's a makeup artist, actually, and so she's obviously at home, can't do any of that work. So she started doing murals across all of the walls in her house, and they are beautiful. And I'm looking at these and I'm like, as soon as we get out of isolation, I'm going to pay her to come and do some stuff on the walls. Yeah,
I haven't really got much on the walls here.
Yeah, there you go. She can solve that.
I'm not sure my parents would be particularly impressed if I invite someone around to start painting on them. But we'll see.
But so there's really, you know, positive things to come out of it. And I think, you know, from our perspective as well, for Best Intentions, we've had a lot more time to kind of focus on this, which has been amazing, and again gives us a little bit of extra joy in the world when it kind of gets a bit too much. So
and if all else fails, I'm obviously still well on my way to becoming an extremely talented ukulele player.
Oh, I can't wait for your first concert.
So the neighbours, I think, are probably a bit sick of me. I decided, because it's so nice, it has been, it's not today, but had been really nice and sunny, I was doing my practice up on the balcony, and I'm not sure I'm making many friends, if I'm honest.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because our next door neighbour has just taken up the ukulele, and it is day in, day out the same tune, and it's driving us absolutely loopy. So as long as we're learning, I
apologise on behalf of ukulele players. Although I probably can't classify myself as a player just yet. I don't even know what it is. Ukulele-ist?
I spelled it wrong when we first started writing about this, so don't ask me.
Good. Well, and I suppose the one last thing that I would say to everyone just with all of this is there is a lot of stress, there is a lot of anxiety, but if you can, like Mel and I, have a moment to just have a giggle and make sure you're smiling at least once every day, I think it will just make this whole journey that little bit more enjoyable. And you know what, it'll take the edge off, that's for sure. Do something that will make you happy, do something that will make you smile, speak to someone, reach out. You never know, you might put some joy into their day as well if you reach out to a friend who you haven't spoken to for a while, or an elderly family member who's potentially on their own, missing out on interacting with their families, and it will bring you joy and it will bring them joy. So
yeah, definitely.
I'm trying to do remind myself of that when I've been stuck in an office on my own all day, every day.
No, just craving just someone else to tell me a story that I haven't heard or haven't seen. But
yeah, I can send you some funny videos. That's probably the extent of mine.
Always open to seeing funny videos.
Good.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, that was a bit of a whistle stop tour of what you can control, even if we're promising we're not going to talk about the things that we can't.
Yeah, and hopefully gave you a bit of a smile for today as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much. It was good to chat, Mel, and as always, if you have any questions or anything that would be valuable, as Mel said, we have got a lot more time to work on this right now than we had before, and so any guides, any calculators, any tips, hints, anything, just please reach out and let us know, because we're always more than happy to talk about it.
And we love hearing from you guys as well.
Cool.
All
See
right.
ya.
See you. Bye.